So welcome everyone. We're just going to give people a few more minutes to come on into our meeting tonight. And I see people are already putting questions in the Q&A. Thank you. That's exactly what you should be doing. All right, welcome everyone. I see people are still joining in. We're really glad you're with us tonight. And I think we're going to have a terrific conversation. We've already got 44 questions. If you attended the meeting earlier with Father McShane and the others, you know to put your questions in the Q&A. We may not get to all your questions. I'm so sorry. We've got over 300 participants right now, but we will do our best to address your questions on video or within the Q&A. We will also have a recording of this that we will make available to you in case you want to study everything further or you aren't able to keep with us for the whole time. My name is Maura Mast. I am the Dean of Fordham College at Rose Hill, and I just want to really thank you for spending time with us tonight. We are really excited that you will be joining us at Fordham. We have been waiting for you. We've been looking for you all spring, wondering what you're going to do. And we are so grateful that you will be joining us and that you're going to be part of our community. We hope tonight that we're going to be able to share a lot of great information with you and answer a lot of your questions. I've got a terrific team here who will introduce themselves as we go along. Before we dig into the questions, I just wanted to update you on something that I think is on everyone's mind because I've been receiving questions about it today. Here at Fordham, we are giving you options for the fall in terms of your courses. You may opt to take all your courses online or most of them. We've sent you a form called the Mode of Learning Change Request Form. Welcome to Fordham, where we have long titles. And it will allow you to tell us if you want to take some or all of your courses online. If you plan to be on campus and you're going to take courses in whatever modality the professor is offering them, you don't need to worry about the form. You do not need to do the form. We are more interested in if you're going to be staying at home and taking your courses remotely. That's really the information we need to know, and that's why we have the form. We will be talking about this throughout the evening, but I just wanted to get started with that piece of information. So our first question, I'm going to ask Professor Jude Jones of the Philosophy Department to share with us what teaching and learning is going to look like this fall at Fordham.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for joining us at Fordham, a place we love, and we hope that you'll come to love it too, if you don't already. I think learning and teaching at Fordham this semester is really going to be, even though it's been triggered by, an ongoing crisis, very exciting, right? We have had an enormous amount of work to do this summer to really rethink our classes from the ground up, to deliver it in a manner that can adjust to any contingencies that might arise, to make things available to students in all of these modalities. And it's been a remarkable opportunity for faculty, students, administrators to collaborate together to really reflect deeply on what it means to deliver a Fordham education. it's been an extraordinary process. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of Zooming, but it has been such a tremendous opportunity to really reinvent what we do. You know, every year we change a little bit of this or that in our classes, but this year we really thought through the deep questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I think everyone, while everyone is apprehensive about, well, what's it going to feel like? I think everyone is fairly excited about this refreshment process that's gone on. And everyone is really eager to be with students again in all of the modalities possible. So I'd be happy to elaborate on anything that folks have specific questions about that, but that's my sense. It's going to be exciting and engaging and challenging, but I think the deliberate focus on creating community, engaging students, and really rethinking what we do has been a tremendous, tremendous thing.
Thanks again, Professor Jones. So I see right away we've got a question about teaching classes online. Dean Parmack, I'm going to toss this one to you. We have a student who asks, if a professor decides to teach a class online, can I redo my schedule?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Parmack, the Dean for First Year Students. It's great to be with you this evening. Yes, so please recognize that this week, faculty have been asked to identify their teaching preferences, and students, as well as of yesterday, have been asked to identify their learning preferences. That data will then be compiled, and a complete list will be shared with the community, which identifies the 3 types of courses that we'll approach, namely fully online, hybrid, or remote. After the student has been given that information, yes, there is opportunity for the student to make any appropriate changes that are needed.
Thanks, Dean Parmack. Professor Meneses, we have a question about labs and recitations in the sciences. And this student would like to know, how will science courses with labs and recitations happen online? Could you take that, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dean Mast. And again, I'm Patricio Meneses. I'm the chair of biology at the moment. And I was at the last session, so I know that this question came up there and then they threw it to us. So, good to follow up right away. First of all, we're really looking forward to teaching all the students in either modality, whether it be online, hybrid, or on the grounds. Biological sciences lab, are one of those things that really we would like to keep on the grounds. Right now, we have a way to have spread out all our labs that we can do everything on the ground. So in person, we have separated the labs into smaller groups, added more sections, different times, which you will see. But at this point, we're going forward with everything that we have to actually give you the in-person experience. Again, that's very biologically centric. I think other STEM departments are working on similar hybrid approaches or online approaches as well. I will say, as I was said it before, even though as you can tell the enthusiasm of Dr. Jones and Dr. Parmack and Dean Mast and myself about wanting to be on campus, if it happens to be a chance that we have to move and really shift from the on-campus experience to the online experience, we have spent a lot of time this summer trying to figure out the best experience online. Okay, but make no mistake about it. I want to be on campus. I want to get to meet you. I want to get to meet your kid. I want to get to dissect those animals with you and really show you the lab. And I'm really looking forward to being there with you all.
Thanks so much. I'd like to ask Dean Garcia to answer the next question, which is about, will there be online library or research or other resources for students who are studying remotely? Dean Garcia, can you talk about the support that we're going to provide for remote students?
So good evening, everyone. I'm Cristobal Garcia, the Assistant Dean for Student Support and Success at Fordham College, Rose Hill, and I'm very excited to be with you all. I'm sure over the last few months, we've been Zooming plenty, either at our town halls or whatnot. As you know, we've been working diligently to make sure that academic support services are available to all of our students who will be virtual or in person. This summer, for example, we piloted virtual tutoring. So to give you an example of some of the things we've been doing to make sure that we could try it out, see what was working, what are some of the kinks, so that when you get back, that'll be available. In terms of resources that are going to be available, library resources will be available. You'll be able to chat with librarians if you need to, access virtual documents. We've expanded our accessibility, so we've also been collaborating with other institutions to make sure that you can get everything and anything that you need in order to complete your assignments and work. And most of the tutoring services or whatnot will also be virtual as we go into the fall, so that students can do that, but also so that we can maintain social distance when needed, and also to accommodate for people's comfort level. So I want to reassure you that we've been working diligently to make sure that those things are in place as you join us in a few weeks.
Thanks so much, Dean Garcia. Dean Parmark, I'm going to ask you another one. Lena wants to know if you could explain how AP credits will be working. I'm sure the students have those scores at this point. Just give us a little overview of that, please.
Certainly, Lena. So provided you have a score of 4 or 5 in any AP exam, it will count towards your Fordham degree requirements. Very simply, students take a minimum of 36 courses and 124 credits. Depending on the academic discipline of the AP exam, it will count, provided it's a score of 4 and 5, in either 3 categories. It's going to be either in the core curriculum, major and/or minor, or electives, all of which work towards the 36 courses and 124 credits. I'll give an example today of a student who phoned me. She says, I have 4 APs. Well, the reality is she's already done 4 courses towards her 36 degree course requirement and 12 credits towards a 124. So what that will provide her is an opportunity, even more so, for a second major, a minor, a concentration, study abroad opportunities, an internship, research, things of that nature. So the easy answer is any AP score of 4 and 5 does count towards your Fordham degree, and it behooves you to have those scores sent. If you have any questions, email me, parmac@fordham.edu, and we'll follow up with you, Lena. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. Professor Jones, I'm wondering if you could answer this question about office hours and how faculty will be offering office hours during this semester.
Yeah, different faculty will be doing different things depending on what modality they've opted for. I know I'm probably electing hybrid option. I always make it a rule that if a student needs to meet with me, I will set up any kind of online meeting that is convenient for both of our schedules. We're all trying to designate online office hour times and figuring out how to do that in a way that both respects the student's privacy and makes it easy for students to find us at a given time. So there will be ways to do that. We can either have an open Zoom meeting, or we can set up private appointments. So people are handling it differently. Some people are asking folks to sign up for particular time slots. Some people are asking just to drop in. In terms of on-campus days, or folks who are on campus, in the case of an office being too small to socially distance, we can make arrangements with the folks who manage the buildings about getting a room at the time that our office hours are designated for. I intend, when it's nice out, to do some outside, because that's the perfect way, the safest way, and it's actually very pleasant. So bring a chair. So there'll be a variety of ways, but no one's going to be shirking office hours.
Thanks so much, Professor Jones. And I'll just add that I hear again and again from students that meeting with faculty, whether it's through Zoom or sitting under a tree, is just a great way to learn about why the faculty member loves this particular area of study. And many of our students get into undergraduate research because they meet with faculty and they learn about their interests. So we really encourage students to connect with faculty, and I think faculty really enjoy it. Professor Meneses, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Sorry. How will exams be administered online? And there is no one answer to this question, by the way.
There really isn't. All of you who just went through high school, the last semester, experience academic integrity questions that you may have had, you, your friends, people you know. So I'm not going to look directly at you. But really, it's a big question that we have. We have a system called Blackboard, and the system called Blackboard, which is where the platform that we use for exams, does have different ways to do exams, where exams can be done on a timely manner, one question at a time, if it is online. And the question has come up about proctoring. Will there be proctoring exams? I think it'll vary depending on the discipline. It'll vary depending on the professor. I think, if you think about what you did, like I said, in the last year, I think a little bit more structure, more of a Blackboard system where you can, come in, sign in, you have an hour and 15 minutes to do X number of questions, and it depends on the type of exam that's set up by your professor, whether it will be 5 questions at a time, the questions can be scrambled. Again, it is a tough question. I will not lie. This is, to me, the toughest part about doing online teaching, is the part that I struggle with the most. I teach upper level courses. So for me, the upper level courses are a lot easier because the questions that I have are really open-ended. It's very much a question and answer in the sense of thought process, more like mini essays. So it's very easy for me to make an exam. But it is a question that's still being worked on. And each one of your professors will have a very, definitive way how they're going to handle exams. And, one of the things that we do at Fordham is we trust our students. I literally cannot tell you enough that, my seniors, I told them we have an open, it's really an open source. I let them use whatever source they needed for the exam as long as it was on their own, because there were tough questions. I mean, the upper level courses are tough, and I trusted that my students worked alone. And I think I was very well rewarded that, the students do what it's academically, integrity right.
Thanks so much. I just want to say one more thing based on what he was saying. I know that, well, I'm pretty sure almost all of you finished high school online. And Professor Meneses, he has a couple students, a couple children in high school, as do I. And I know it was a bumpy experience, at least for my kids, and I don't think my kids are alone. I just want you to know that whether your courses at Fordham are online or hybrid, they're going to be really good courses. As Professor Jones says, we've been working all summer to really rethink how we're going to support our students and offer really interesting learning experiences. And part of what I'm excited about is I think it's going to improve our in-person teaching. When the pandemic is over and we're all back in the classrooms, I think faculty are going to be better teachers because of all the reflection they've gone through. But I just want you to know that it's going to be really quite different from, the learning that you probably experienced at the end of high school. And we think you're going to really enjoy it. Dean Garcia, a question for you about commuting students and how they would manage online and in-person courses on the same day. Do you have any insights? John asked this question.
So hi, John. So I think that how the online and in-person model will work for students is really going to vary. We expect that professors will have content that is asynchronous that can be available to students at their discretion. So you may have a class that meets at 8:30 in the morning, but you don't need to be logged in at 8:30 in the morning. You could watch this lecture later in the day when it's a more convenient time, but your class might be meeting during that time. And so the university is working to ensure that there are spaces where students can, be meeting in socially distant fashion. So for example, if you need to put your headset in because you need to join into a call. And so we do expect the students will have a combination of online and in-person classes in any given day. But if that is not convenient for you, over the next few weeks, you can make adjustments. Many of our first-year students know they have their summer first-year academic coordinators, their SFACs. So if you have questions about making changes, this is a really good time to reach out since you'll be able to make changes until August 11th. And then on August 12th, your SFACs will begin to audit your registration and they can give you feedback to see if there's anything that needs to be changed.
Thanks so much, Dean Garcia. Dean Parmack, I've seen quite a few questions that I think fall into your area. Course schedules, advising, changing schedules, credits. Would you be able to address just a number of these all at once, please?
Sure. So recognize that students are asked to complete the course preference survey if they're intending online or hybrid by August 6th. So soon thereafter, we'll be able to post a list for the community so they recognize which courses will be in which mode. I see a lot of questions are asking that same theme. The second one is basically, I would comment on what is Fordham doing in order to create an opportunity for in-classes to be safe and such that as well. Realize that we are requiring masks in the classes as well as on campus. They've already worked a lot in the academic buildings of densifying operations. So in other words, where I typically teach in a classroom that might have 30 seats, now there's about 10 in there. So it's typically a third. So in order to facilitate that, they're working on air filtration models and such as well. Realize we have summer advisors called the SFACs, the Summer First Year Academic Coordinators. And then we also have core advisors during the academic year. So recognize that students always have that extra level of resource in addition to me as their class dean. And I read somewhere else, two people were asking what is the advisor to student ratio. We typically have 16 to 17 students in each advisor group, so it's more personalized. Let's see, what else might be good to know at this point? A number of people have asked about Thanksgiving. Yes, so once Thanksgiving happens, online, on-campus rather, instruction will not happen anymore. Therefore, the campus will be shut down. So the remainder of the semester post-Thanksgiving will be done in a remote fashion, both the remaining classes as well as final examinations that are there. I also, one last thing, it's not our area, but I know a lot of students are asking about it. What about dorm assignments and such like that? I listened on to the last one where VP Gray mentioned, and he promised in about a week or so, Res Life will be assigning those as well. And yes, to that one student asking about Manresa, if you were accepted to Manresa, yes, you can be in Loyola Housing.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dean Parmack. Professor Jones, we had a question about whether there will be TAs teaching classes, and I'd like you to answer this. And before you jump in, I just want to let folks know that at Fordham, while we have a number of graduate programs, doctoral programs in philosophy, where Professor Jones is one of them, many of our courses are taught by full-time faculty. But I'd like you to speak about the training that the graduate teaching fellows go through and the support that they get.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we don't really have teaching assistants in our classes. It's either the professor is teaching or a graduate student is teaching their own class. In our department, students go through a very rigorous teacher training process from the minute they get here. And in fact, a little kudos to us, our students tend to do well looking for teaching jobs because they have so much experience by the time they leave us. And they've done so much very deliberate reflection on what it means to teach. I mentioned earlier about all the collaboration that's been going on all summer. The graduate students who are teaching this year in my department were taking part in the workshops, in the various special meetings we've had to talk about specific topics of discussion, and have been really central figures in those conversations. They are amazing thinkers about what it means to enter the teaching vocation at this moment in history. So I think our graduate student teachers are exceptionally well trained. I think that's the case in every department I've ever been exposed to. But I'm not aware, it may be different in a few other departments, of any like just teaching assistant covering a class. So if someone's doing a class, it's their class and they've been trained to do that class. And we monitor that, evaluate that. Each of us is assigned to a student every semester to observe and evaluate and help them improve their teaching. And I find with our students that I learn things from our graduate student teachers because it renews our sense of what we can do.
Thanks so much. And as Dean Parmack noted, he went through that program, right? You can attest to it. And now you teach philosophy. So you're quite a product of it. Great, thanks so much. So we had a really interesting question. And I'm gonna start with Dean Garcia, but then I know that some of our other panelists will want to jump in and give their perspective. So here's the question, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it. It says, hello, what are the real benefits of coming on campus rather than being online? If most, maybe not all of my students' classes are online, I can't see why they should come to campus, especially with all the restrictions. I mean, this is really a terrific question. I think everyone's wondering about this. Dean Garcia, you wanna lead us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely right, Dean Mass. This is an excellent question. And I think it's the burning question, right? Like, why? Like, why should I come back to campus? And I'll start off by saying that coming to campus is not right for everyone. And so it has to be the right decision for you. And I think at the end of the day, in my many conversations with students and parents over this period, it's really about what is your comfort level and are you ready to come? And if you're feeling ready to come, let's talk about what are the great benefits that there will be for being on campus. I think that even though students may have to maintain social distance, that doesn't mean that they will not be able to develop relationships and be in community with others. And so, students will still have assigned roommates, and basically you and your roommate are a little family in your res hall, wherever you are. And that many other people in your res hall are going to kind of become a part of that community with you. And that as we've been making so many adjustments around campus, we're also ensuring that students can continue to participate in different activities and engagements on campus. And for many students, we know that there's an attraction to come to New York City. And so I'd like to assure you that New York City is doing much better than the 34 other states on the list. And I don't mean that to take, I say that jokingly, but it's true, right? We are at a place where many of our facilities across the state of New York are reopening in New York City as well. So there are many things our students are going to be able to take advantage of that they are so excited and looking forward to do. And so it is a very difficult decision, and I can't make it for anyone, but I can say that if you're feeling like this is the time for you to come to college and to be on campus, know that we are taking all of the precautions for you to be safe, and that there will be a variety of different activities and resources and things happening, and that your peers are going to be here to some extent. But if they're not, the other part is if you can't come, you're not ready to come, I don't want you to feel like you're missing out on something else, right? Because it's going to be a different experience for every student that joins us this semester. And I think some of it is being okay with that. Like, there's sometimes that FOMO, like fear of missing out. And so this is not the time for fear of missing out. Like, this is the time to make the best decision for you, for your family, for your particular situation. And so that's, I think, the best that I can say about making that hard decision.
That's so great. Thank you so much, Dean Garcia. Professor Meneses, do you want to tackle this one also?
Sure. I mean, first off, I agree with Dr. Garcia that the experience that you're going to get at Fordham is going to be a Jesuit education. There's no doubt that what we want to do is we want to have this personal relationship with you. We'll do a great job online, in person. Not only will you have it with us, though, but you'll have it with also people from other states, from Colorado, from the South Bronx. Not another state, but for some people, it'll seem like another state because you've never been to the South Bronx. And it's one of the things that I value about Fordham, that you see a mixture of individuals on campus that you get to meet and you get to see. Certainly the interactions that you have with your professors sometimes happen when you're in line for the coffee. I'm going to Starbucks or somewhere else to get a coffee, and that's where you end up having a conversation with the student, or you hear two students discussing, how do I get into that lab? And then it happens to be that a professor or someone can say, you know what, I actually am from biology, come join us. One of my students in my research lab was playing basketball in the gym by himself. Of course, me being myself, I said, oh, you have no friends? I'll play with you. It was a nice joke. But 2 years later, he spent, in my lab, he spent over 3 years in my lab, and now he's in medical school. And again, those are types of interactions that are difficult to come by. Again, I don't want to deprive anyone for the experience if it is online. Again, if you're online, you can still, make a connection with a professor. But, living in New York City, in the Bronx, I'm from Chile, but I'm really a New Yorker. It's a wonderful experience. The neighborhoods are fantastic. And I encourage you, if you, like you said, if you have the level of comfort, come join us. Again, I'm on campus right now. The labs are ongoing. We are getting it ready for everyone. I feel comfortable going to campus every day, and my graduate students are in the lab. We're working together to make it a safe environment, and I think it'll be a good experience. Either way.
Thanks so much. You heard earlier, if you were at the town hall earlier, about the really intensive approach that Fordham is taking to social distancing, to cleaning, to monitoring, and I have a lot of confidence. I'm still not on campus yet because the campus hasn't reopened formally. I don't have a lab like Professor Meneses, but I can't wait to be back on campus. The other thing I'll share is, as you're trying to make this decision, again, think about how college is different from high school. You all know high school super well. You're like the experts in it, right? And in high school, you spend, 8 hours a day in class, something like that, or maybe it just seems like it's more than that. college is kind of funny because you don't spend 8 hours a day in your classes. Maybe you'll spend 3 hours one day and 4 hours another day. The rest of the time you are learning in a lot of different ways. You're learning by talking to your professor, you're learning by talking to someone in line at Starbucks, or playing basketball, or in a student club, or going into Manhattan or exploring the Bronx. You will be learning in many, many different ways. We are going to try to help you do that, whether you're on campus or not. But if you are interested in coming to campus, know that we will have a rich set of activities for you, and we will really try to support you. Professor Jones, I have another question for you, and it's about how we're going to be teaching this fall. And here's the question: what will in-person classes really mean for students who learn best sitting in a class? Will these classes be in person all the time?
Can you clarify, if a class is designated in person, will it be in person all the time?
I think that's part of the question, right? Mm-hmm.
I think so. If someone has designated that they want to teach all in person, the hours designated for that course will be in person. If someone has designated to teach hybrid, it'll be portioned out a certain way. All of the classes will have online components, what we're calling asynchronous content, because with the social distancing, we can only meet with a certain number of students in a classroom, right? So a class of 35 has to be subdivided into smaller pockets of students, either on different days or for shorter periods of time on the same day. And every professor will apply whatever rule they think will be best for their subject matter and the kind of material that they're teaching. So it will vary. Nothing will make you take classes outside of the time frame of what you're registered for. So the classes will be socially distanced. If I heard right at the prior town hall, furniture has been removed so that they're prepared for social distancing. Everyone will be masked. So it's going to be a little weird. It's going to be hard to kind of read faces the way that we usually read faces in classrooms, but we'll try. And then for hybrid classes, what I anticipate is people will designate certain days on campus and do the rest of their synchronous or live time via Zoom or some other modality. People are trying to recapture, whatever we do best with the live teaching and whatever modality that we're doing. I don't know. I hope I've addressed what the actual question is there.
Hope so. I'm sure we'll get a follow-up if not, but thank you. And I just want to emphasize one of the things she said, that suppose you're in a course with, let's say, 25 students, and that course is meeting in the hybrid fashion. So maybe once a week you're meeting, and the rest of your learning is structured asynchronously. You're not going to meet with 25 students in that classroom unless it's a super big classroom. That 25 student group is going to be divided into 2 smaller groups. So you're actually going to get a lot of close interaction with faculty, socially distanced, of course, but really, I think a lot more attention than you would at another time. So strangely, it will work out well, we think. And again, faculty are really working hard to adapt to this new structure, and I think it's going to be great. Dean Parmack, I'm going to ask you a question about orientation and what's being planned for orientation later in August.
Sure. So a number of you have been asking about academic orientation, and just to clarify, the day of academic orientation will be that same day, namely Monday. So in essence, what happens is we have a number of events that will be bifurcated. We'll have some in-person versions of it that day to welcome the students who are present in person, as well as some virtual options too. So we will definitely have a combination of the two. And among other things, what we try to do is not only ceremonially welcome the students, but also make sure that they are attended to in terms of their course schedule. We'll have a session in particular called Learning Across the Disciplines, which is something we're looking forward to, because the idea is to give students really practical, concrete advice about how to best learn in this unusual environment these days, and looking at how different disciplines can learn from one another. You'll also meet with your core academic advisor that day, as well as any pre-professional or specific groups such as Manresa or pre-law or pre-health or things of that nature. So that Monday, namely, is academic orientation day, namely Monday the 24th. The following day is dedicated solely to student life orientation. So all the non-academic events that are there. So whether you are attending the fall semester fully online or in person, you will have access to both of those fashions of orientation. Also, I'll just add to that because some students are saying if in fact they are fully remote this fall and or perhaps deferring, yes, there is also a spring orientation too. And clearly we'll have to have plans for the spring in order to catch students up, have a different kind of, kind of reminder about what in fact perhaps they may have missed. But yes, we do have both of them, but we are planning one in a variety of fashions for this fall.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. I see that Jessica asked a really interesting question that relates to another question we had. With so many courses being online, will you be leaning more heavily on TAs? And this is really a great question. How can we be assured that quality of education will be on point with expectations and history at Fordham? This is such an important question. And this is why I've invited these two faculty members to be part of this group so that they can really share with you their experience of teaching at Fordham and how they are really rethinking how to teach in this new environment where we really deliver on the promise of a Fordham education. So I don't know, Professor Jones, Professor Meneses, do either one of you want to take this one?
I'll say something, and Patricio, I would love to hear chime in as well. It's never the case that Fordham would be, so, if something shifts online, is someone else going to teach it because it's just an online class? Absolutely not, right? We own these classes. As I tried to say earlier, and Maura has, Dean Mast has also emphasized, I think the process of rethinking everything has made us all better teachers. Folks who have been dedicated to this for years are just finding themselves reinvigorated by this. So nothing is being sloughed off onto other people, right? We're digging deeper as the original assigned instructors of the classes and trying to do things well and being given all kinds of advice. A few of us have been on committees together working on creating advice for any instructor to think about. So you might try this or you might try that. So everyone is doing their thing and nothing is being substituted out with some lesser product.
And I'll start off from a more practical perspective, right? So last year at this time, we were assigning courses to our highly qualified professors and postdoctoral fellows, our lecturers, and of course, all the labs, etc. And that's the same process we're doing right now. In fact, we almost have to because we have a hiring freeze. So it's not like we're going to go online and now we're going to hire 16 people to teach online because we can't hire anyone except for what we had last year. Obviously, that's kind of like perhaps a silly question, but it's just to show you that the people who have been teaching here for the last 10, 15 years are the same ones that are going to be teaching now. And I am not, switching the course schedule, being the department chair. I know who's teaching a class, and this person has been the best person to teach our ecology course. Well, that person is assigned that course. We are not sloughing off, and certainly with the tremendous support that we've gotten from our pedagogy groups for online learning and online teaching, I really do think that the classes have gotten better. They've been streamlined, even courses within courses, whereas there might have been a little bit of overlap between two classes. Now that's even been better separated and better sequenced. So if anything, I think the experience is going to be better. And a great point that Dean Mass pointed out, your class on campus or even, online, it might be the same size, but on campus, it's going to be perhaps a smaller group of people to interact with the professors. So you will have a lot more access to us than you had in the past, even though having said that, my office was always filled with students and I imagine it will be, but I think the experience of the teaching experience is going to be better than perhaps it was even last year.
Thanks so much. That's really great. Dean Garcia, Dean Parmack, do you want to add to that or we can move to another question? Dean Garcia is good moving. Dean Parmack, if I could ask you, we had a couple questions about housing, and I know you work quite a bit with Residence Life, and about something, I think this is the first year formation. They called it the Orientation of New York. Would you be able to speak to those two, please?
Sure. So the Office of Student Affairs does run a 0-credit elective called the First Year Formation Seminar. And the idea there is that it acclimates students to New York City, Jesuit education, and some other ways of community building and bonding. So you have been sent already information from OSI, the Office of Student Involvement, and keep in contact with Tom Balistracci. He's a gentleman who runs that, because there are a number of sections that they offer, and any student is welcome to participate, whether remotely, hybrid, or in person.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. Let's see, I'm going to answer a question. Should we email professors about whether or not the course will be online? And I've seen a number of questions in the Q&A about this, and I totally get that this is a really important question. So let me tell you right now, we are working with faculty to understand their preference for, are they going to teach completely online, again, with the assumption that they'll be meeting live with students during the week, and that there will be additional material for students that they'll be working on in groups or on their own. Some faculty will be teaching a hybrid where they'll be on campus one day and then the rest will be online. And then some courses, like the lab courses, will be fully in person. So we are getting that information from faculty. We're reviewing it in the dean's office, and we hope to have that information available next week. You are absolutely welcome to email the faculty. I know Professor Jones shared with me that she's actually emailed her students to find out what they would like, and that's helping her make the decision. Also know that once we get all that information in my office, we're going to look and see if we can offer you some opportunities to rearrange your schedule. So if you're on campus and you're taking all online courses, we'd like to see if we can shift you to some courses that are going to meet partially in person. So we will try to take a look at that. It's a huge puzzle. If anyone has a great answer, please let me know. But we are figuring it out, and we've got a terrific team, lots of folks working together on this one. So we will definitely get there. Let's see, what else can we ask? And I'll just note, we've got a lot of questions in the Q&A also about sanitizing and quarantining. And I know we've got some folks from Student Affairs here who are nobly trying to answer the questions, but definitely do review the Fordham Forward information. There's a lot of terrific information on that, and I encourage you to look for that. So I'll just answer a couple questions based on my knowledge. If I'm sitting in the library or a common area where no one is around me within 6 feet, am I allowed to take off my mask? The answer is no. If you are in an area with other people, even if no one's around you, we are asking you to keep your mask on. Is the commuter barbecue still taking place? Dean Garcia, do you know the answer to that one? You work really closely with the commuting students.
So from my understanding, there'll be a virtual commuter barbecue event that's going to be taking place. It's kind of cool and exciting from what Stephen Esposito described. And so there's going to be some avatars, and there's going to be folks from all over the university represented, and kind of who to know as a commuter and what to know will be available. So you should have received information, or should be receiving information shortly. But it sounds like a really cool option given our circumstances. And so keep an eye out for that communication.
That's great. I've lost it now, but I know we had a question about course schedules and when you'll be connected with your academic advisor. Dean Parmack, do you want to just talk a little bit about core advising and more information?
Sure. So every student, as you know, this summer has a SFAC, a SFAC we call it, a Summer First Year Academic Coordinator. And that person will retain with you until the end of August, at which point we have a transfer from the SFAC to a core advisor. So once we have training for the core advisors, that next day, the crossover happens, and then that person will be with you for the duration of the academic year. So that person will be helping you about course selection for the spring semester, academic concerns, opportunities for you. They're really your first contact person that you'll have throughout the fall semester. And just very broadly speaking, so whether you're with us purely online or hybrid or in person, you'll have opportunities to connect with that core advisor throughout the fall and spring semesters. We have a different series of interesting programming, some of which might be individual meetings that you have with your core advisor. You'll have a number of them, both in the fall and the spring. We have other cohorted events that Dean Garcia and I run together. And then you'll also have smaller groups. So each advising group will not exceed 17 to 18 students. So you'll bond and connect with those students. And then realizing our advisors don't have a monopoly on all knowledge or experience, we also have upper class students called FASAs, another acronym you'll learn. And that's the Faculty Advising Student Assistant. So that's a sophomore, junior, or senior who's doing well academically, who's connected well with our college and activities, and they work together as a team with you throughout the academic year on academic and also enrichment activities. And you'll hear a lot from me too, because I will be in contact with you and Dean Garcia too.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. Dean Garcia, I'm wondering if you can talk with the students and families about the book that we're asking everyone to read this summer.
So I'm excited to share with you all about our Common Read this summer. And so for the first time that anyone can remember, Fordham College Rose Hill and Fordham College Lincoln Center are collaborating on a summer read from Colson Whitehead called The Colossus of New York. And so you should have received an email from me last week, and you'll receive an email from me tomorrow giving you the information about our upcoming summer engagement. So we have at this point planned 3 engagements, virtual ones, with students and administrators and faculty that will join us in a rich discussion about some of the major themes in the book. There was also an article that was that came out on Tuesday where you'll kind of hear Dean Williams and myself share our thoughts and reflections about why we're excited about having the summer read. But mostly, I think our position right now is that a lot has happened and that literature is an incredible opportunity for us to engage in rich discussions. And the book is centered in New York, and New York is our campus. And so we're really, really excited to allow students and our administrators, faculty, and students to reflect about what does their New York experience look like, and to talk about maybe dreams and aspirations about this unique opportunity and time, knowing that it's not going to be the same for everyone. And so we really are inviting you to join us over the next few weeks as we read and discuss this book. And so the book is free. You have a free download in that email. So check out my email from the first year account where you can download your free book on Google Play. So as I heard VP Carroll say that there's not many free things, and so here's one more free thing. This class can't complain. There's a lot of free things, free math, free books, take advantage of all of it. So looking forward to seeing you on Zoom over the next few weeks.
Thanks so much, and it's really, really exciting. The author, Colson Whitehead, is going to be kind of a writer in residence this year. He's not really going to be in residence, but he will visit the campus and give a couple talks during the year. And so we are super excited that we're going to be able to offer this book. And it's just a wonderful way for you to get to know New York, and then for you to think about how you're going to make New York yours. Dean Parmack, I have a question from Lisa, who says, my student will need to fly home for Thanksgiving, and everyone's going to need to leave at Thanksgiving. Where or how can I find out when the last day of classes will be so that I can schedule the flight?
Sure. So it would all depend on when your particular class meets last. But just to give you an overall view, our Thanksgiving break would begin after classes on that Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving. So provided you have no classes thereafter, that's when your break. It's not as if in high school where everybody has the same exact time, because some students may not have any classes on Tuesday. That being the case, we recognize even more so this year the need for flexibility and compassion. So at that point, you will fill out perhaps the excuse absence form if in fact you needed to leave earlier. Different arrangements can be made with my office as well as the professors that are there. But if that's the case, then that would be when students perhaps might leave. And I realize some students might be asking too, in order for ease of travel and concern, to have perhaps go a day or two even earlier. So we fully expect that will happen. And just to clarify, remember, so then once that happens, the semester is not over. You're simply not at the university campus. So namely, you would finish your courses still remotely, as well as have final exams remotely too. That's my Dean little plug there, sorry.
No, it's a really important thing to consider. And Dean Parmack, what about international orientation? Do you have an update on that?
Sure. So there is still plan for the global transitions, what they call for international students. And you'll hear from Miss Monica Esser, with an update regarding some of that, because we recognize some students may be unable to arrive either when it begins or might be simply participating virtually too. So be on the lookout from that, from Monica Esser. She is our representative in the Office of Undergraduate Admission who works specifically with the international student population. And Dean Lennis, who's feverishly working behind scenes answering your questions now, and I will be also doing an academic orientation for you later in August.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. Professor Jones, I'm wondering if you can just share with the students some thoughts about how they can, if they do end up with some online courses, and most courses will be partially online, do you or the others have some guidance for them on how to do well in an online context, in an online college level course?
Yeah, I have some advice. I think the thing that I've learned the most about it from my students and from reading about people's experiences in the spring is a very crucial thing is to manage one's time differently, right? The interface in the online situation is different than moving at a designated time to your classes and studying in between classes or however you're used to organizing time. And the cognitive process of learning online is slightly different. So I would advise folks to figure out what it is that, make a short list, maybe your 3 strongest points in learning and your 3 biggest challenges, and develop a plan ahead of time for how to manage your time in a very fine-grained way. Like look at the week and ask yourself, where can various kinds of work be done? Some faculty I've noticed when we've been collaborating about syllabus work are actually indicating to students their sense of how long this or that assignment might take to do, either the online component itself that you have to upload or type into the Blackboard site, or the reading end of things that you need to do before the live conversation. So, and even if a faculty member doesn't provide that, feel free to ask them, what kind of time you should be putting into something. So definitely time management. Definitely try to resist the thing that the online interface sometimes imposes, which is a sense of passivity. I would try to capture whatever it is in your personality that is you when you're live, and be that on this screen, right? And invite that from other people. While in some ways the online challenge seems to be a downside of things, I've been encouraging folks to see it as an upside, as an opportunity to be creative and do things in new ways, an opportunity to grow past the challenge and get past the various kinds of things that present resistance. And that's true for teachers as well, right? We all have to ask ourselves, all right, what am I good at? What do I need to improve at? How do I organize my day around doing all of that well? And don't hesitate to ask for help. Faculty love it when students come to see us, consult with us. We love to talk to folks and are there with all kinds of free advice if you ask us. So hopefully that answered that question.
That's terrific. Dean Garcia, do you want to talk for a minute about what you and Dean Parmack are planning for orientation to help students understand the online context?
Yeah, so we're kind of gearing up and getting ready for your arrival and for academic orientation day. And so one of the things that we're adding to this year's is really a kind of more in-depth conversation about how to succeed on the online hybrid model, which we know is going to be different. Interestingly enough, I was on a call with a sophomore on yesterday, and she was telling me about, we were discussing how well she had done this past semester, and she was reflecting on how her experience with some of the online courses gave her so much extra time that she hadn't planned for, where she could more deeply look at content, where she could replay material. Sometimes she felt that when she was in class, she was in such a rush to write everything down that she was missing things, but that in the online format, she kind of was able to take her time. And she, you know, so it was really great to just sit with her and talk over Zoom, because I don't think she'd sat to think about what was working for her. And like, you know, the many ways in which she had grown and she had succeeded as a student, right? Because she had taken ownership of her academic learning, right? Like she had to do things and figure out what made good sense for her. And so I think hearing some of those reflections from some of our upperclassmen, I think Dean Parmack and I are working diligently to put together some pointers from the upperclassmen who, you know, had a little bit of a trial run, and of course looking at some of the literature out there about what are some of the best practices in online learning. So we look forward to sharing those with you all on Academic Orientation Day.
Thanks so much, Dean Garcia. Let's see, Dean Parmack, we had a question that I think you can answer, but now I've lost it. Well, we had about getting a student ID. They do that at orientation. Oh, now I remember. Parents are still welcome for that first part of orientation. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. So what the Office of Student Affairs is allowing is a minimum of 2 people assisting with the move-in of their respective student. That being the case, they do have precautions and social distancing. So the parents or family members will not be going, for instance, into the room. They have student volunteers to help them there, but they do recognize that you're part of that event itself, yes. And there'll be more information about that, I heard, that will be forthcoming too from that office.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. I'm just responding to a question here. I think we are answering most of the questions that I'm capable of answering. Oh, here's a good one. MK, when will professors tell us what textbooks they need? Actually, this is a great question, and I know there was something earlier about books. Professor Meneses, you want to tackle that one as a faculty member?
So all the classes that you are assigned for should have a textbook assigned to them. Our bookstore, you know, provides all the textbooks, and we are asked way in advance to tell them what textbooks we're getting. I would recommend you get them early. You know, we start right away. I mean, our classes, you know, you are getting a good education, and part of that is that it's not an easy education. You have to work at it. So we hope that you get the books, you know, kind of early. And I would say, you know, a week before or so, or even beforehand. I already have students in my class who are actually seniors who already have the textbook for my class, and they've been asking me questions about which chapter is going to be first and second. So the sooner you get the class textbook, the better. And again, there should be a link from the instructor. You contact the instructor, or you should be able to look on Barnes and Nobles. I think it tells you which textbooks are assigned to each class, and you should be able to pick them up. And I would definitely do it within, you know, at least a week before the class begins. I would do so.
One of the recommendations that we're giving to faculty is that they share information with students well in advance of the semester, maybe a week ahead if they can, because we know that it's going to take time for students to get books. If they're not using our bookstore, they may have to order them. So we want to make sure that students have that information, but also if students will be learning remotely, we want to give students time to understand software, to understand our learning management platform. So we're going to encourage, we are encouraging faculty to do that outreach as soon as possible. Dean Parmack, we have a question about move-in. Just, can you give us a quick update about what's going to happen with move-in, who can go on campus, when is it going to happen?
Sure. So a number of these things have come up in the last session, and I know the Office of Residential Life will give you more specifics in the next week or two, but just broad strokes here. They're doing it in terms of a phased move-in. So they're recognizing that they have to appreciate the fact that social distancing is happening and such too. So they're trying to do it in small phases that are there, with obviously the RAs coming first, and then current students and such there too. So you'll get a little more information about that. But just broad strokes here, they're trying to make sure that obviously things are safe, that social distancing is kept in mind. And also, just to clarify, a lot of the residence hall rooms, sometimes students and faculty, family members rather, get nervous about triples and things of that nature. Recognize that these will be rooms that are intended for those residents. In other words, they will not be overstuffed rooms by any means. So they're trying to make sure that that's the case. So if a room is in fact having 2 students in it, it was designed to have 2 students in it. And I know Residential Life will work with you more and more about the explanation of how that procedurally will happen too.
Thanks so much, Dean Parmack. So we are at the end of our time. It's 9:30. We've had a great set of questions. Thank you all for all that you have offered up to us. And I'm just going to say you are welcome to email any of us, maybe if folks don't mind putting their email in the chat. And I've put mine on there a few different times. But please follow up with us if you have any specific questions. We are really always here for you. And we look forward to seeing you in late August. All right, take care, everyone. Good night.